Since ancient times, our ancestors have left us countless timeless teachings, short phrases that are simple in words but profound in meaning. Time may wear down mountains and dry up rivers, but the wisdom of the ancients, like a light in the dark, continues to illuminate human souls through generations. There are words that seem simple at first, but only after half a lifetime do we begin to grasp their true meaning. For the teachings of the ancients are not mere moral sayings. They are a map for travelers on the road of life, where right and wrong, gain and loss, honor and shame are all lessons of great value. Tonight, I invite you to listen and to reflect upon those ancient words once more. Perhaps, amid the restless flow of life, we may find a moment of peace and a glimmer of light within our hearts. Among the teachings of the ancients, there is one short saying, but it holds a truth every one of us has lived through. It is this: failure is the mother of success. At first, it may sound like a comforting phrase, but the longer we live, the more we realize there is no success not paid for with sweat, tears, and hidden scars. For each failure does not come to defeat us, but to forge us, stronger, wiser, so that one day, when success smiles, we can smile back, calmly and with peace. As the old saying goes, no road is paved with roses, only those walked with perseverance. And sometimes, it is in our very moments of falling that we build the stepping stones toward our highest selves. Tonight, let us listen to a small story about a woman who endured countless failures, yet through her pain found the path toward the light of success. The story of Maria Nguyen. In the heart of New York, the city that never sleeps, where neon lights blend with hurried footsteps, lives a small, slender woman named Maria Nguyen. Few ever notice her. For among the sea of people here, an Asian woman in a gray janitor's uniform is but a shadow in the vast machinery of America. 20 years ago, Maria set foot in this land with an old suitcase and a simple dream: as long as my child has a future. She came from a small village in Western Vietnam. When she arrived in the US, she knew no English, had no degree. Her husband left after a quarrel, leaving her alone with a baby boy barely 2 years old. Maria did every job she could find: washing dishes, cleaning hotel rooms, babysitting. But the one she kept the longest was janitor at a high school in Queens. Each dawn, when the city still slept and the distant sound of trains echoed through the fog, she pushed her old trash cart down the hallways. The sound of broom bristles on cold tiles, the crinkle of plastic bags, the squeak of rubber slippers. That was the soundtrack of her life for nearly 2 decades. She never complained, because every time exhaustion weighed on her, she thought of David, her only son, the one hope in her life of loss. In her immigrant mother's heart burned a flame that never went out. My son was born in America. He won't suffer like I did. David grew up between 2 worlds. At school, he was a true American, speaking English fluently, playing basketball, listening to rap. But at home, in their small basement apartment in the Bronx, was his mother's broken Vietnamese and the faint aroma of pho simmering in the old kitchen. Maria didn't understand all his talk about science or computers, but she knew he was smart. He once told her, "Mom, one day I'll be an engineer. I'll invent something big, so you'll never have to work again." She smiled, running her calloused fingers through his hair, hands roughened by years of scrubbing floors, yet still gentle. Inside, she silently promised herself, "I can bear all hardship as long as my son becomes someone." But life rarely goes as planned. When David went to college, he entered a different world where temptation wore no whip, but came dressed as parties, music, and overflowing beer glasses. At first, it was just weekend fun. Then gradually, fun became habit. Classes were missed, grades plummeted, until one day, David received a letter of expulsion. Maria said nothing. She stood silently, looking at the paper in his hand, lips pressed tight. Her eyes that had endured 1,000 sorrows, held only a deep, quiet grief. From that day, David's life fell apart. His first job failed, credit card debts piled up, friends drifted away. And one rainy night, David, drunk, caused a minor accident and was arrested. When Maria arrived at the police station, it was 2 a.m. She trembled as she held the report, eyes red, lips pale from the cold. David sat quietly in the corner, head bowed, avoiding her gaze. She didn't scold. She simply walked over, laid a hand on his shoulder, and in a voice hoarse and trembling said, "When you fall, I can lift you up. But if you refuse to stand, I can't lift you forever." That simple sentence cut into David's heart like a knife. He looked at her hands, dark, cracked by cleaning chemicals. Those were the hands that once cradled him, that scrubbed floors in school halls to pay his tuition. For the first time, David saw the exhaustion and despair in his mother's eyes. That night, he couldn't sleep. Outside, rain tapped on the tin roof. Her words echoed in his mind, "If you don't stand up." It kept repeating until he broke down and cried like a child. The next morning, David went to a small auto repair shop in Brooklyn and asked for a job. The owner, an old Italian man, looked at him, young, inexperienced, and sighed, "You think you can handle hard work?" David replied simply, "I just want to start over." And so, a new journey began. By day, he worked among oil, smoke, and the clang of metal. By night, he re-enrolled in his unfinished degree, studying online, fueled by the last of his willpower. Whenever exhaustion struck, he remembered his mother's calloused hands scrubbing school floors through the winter cold. No one pushed him anymore, except the voice within. "If you don't stand up, I can't lift you forever." Seasons passed. David's sweat on the garage floor mixed with his mother's tears in the school hallways. He had fallen, but this time he stood up on his own. 5 years later, David held in his hands a degree in engineering. Not from a prestigious university, no flowers, no fireworks, but to Maria, it was the most beautiful diploma in the world. At the graduation, she sat quietly in the audience, tears glistening in her eyes, not from pride, but from knowing her son had truly stood up. Later, David was hired by a mid-sized tech company in Manhattan. On his first day, he wore a crisp white shirt and a neatly tied tie. The new employee badge shone under the morning light. That afternoon, instead of going home, he stopped by the high school, where his mother still worked. Down the familiar hallway, he saw her bent over the floor, wiping sweat from her brow. He walked up quietly, placed his badge in her hand, and said, "Mom, I've stood up now. It's my turn to lift you." Maria froze, looking at the badge, then at her son. Tears streamed down her face, tears of release and joy. She shook her head, smiling through tears. "I can still work, my son, but I'm so happy." Her eyes, weary from a lifetime of hardship, shone like the sunrise over the city. David hugged her, smelling sweat, cleaning solution, and love, the scent that moving world. People often speak of dazzling success, of skyscrapers that pierce the clouds, of million-dollar contracts. Yet few mention the quiet hands that wipe away tears after their children fall. The ancients said, "Failure is the mother of success." But perhaps, more truly, a mother's love is the shelter for her child's failures. A mother can lift her child once, twice, even 100 times. But standing up or staying down is each person's choice. And when a child learns to stand on their own, that is the moment a mother can finally smile. For the flame she's guarded all her life now burns bright within her child's heart. The story of Robert Trunn. In the suburbs of San Jose stands a quiet 2-story house at the end of a small street. In the driveway, a shiny luxury car glints under the morning sun. Its owner is Robert Trunn, a Vietnamese-American man, the very picture of the American dream. Robert came to the U.S. at 20, penniless, without English, without capital. But he believed deeply, in this country, if I work hard, I'll have everything. And indeed, after 15 years, he did. He owned a thriving small business, a beautiful house, a luxury car, a gentle wife, and 2 well-behaved children. To everyone looking in, he was the embodiment of success, a lucky man whose dream had come true. But just when he had everything, Robert began losing what money could never buy. He threw himself into work, days spent managing, nights spent calculating. He told himself, just a little more effort, for more comfort, more happiness for the family. But family dinners grew rare. Conversations turned into arguments, and the laughter of his children slowly faded within the spacious house. Then one afternoon at work, the phone rang. It was the hospital. His father had suffered a stroke. The old man, once a carpenter, was the one who had taught Robert how to work and how to live. Robert rushed to the hospital. His father was conscious, frail, but smiling weakly as he held his son's hand. "My son, I've been poor all my life, but I never once felt lacking. You have more than I ever did, so why do you always look so tired?" Robert stood in silence. For the first time in years, he didn't know how to answer, neither with money nor success. A few days later, his father passed away. Robert returned to his childhood home, a small, worn wooden house, to sort through his father's belongings. Inside a drawer, he found an old leather notebook. The yellowed pages were filled with meticulous notes of savings, tiny amounts recorded with care. At the very end, a line written in shaky handwriting read, "I don't need much, just enough to eat, to live, and to smile when I see my son happy." Robert sat for a long time by the old window, looking out at the sunlit garden. For the first time, he felt something lift, as if an invisible weight had fallen from his heart. He realized that for all these years, he had lived to have more, but had forgotten how to feel enough. When he returned to San Jose, Robert made a decision. He sold off some of his assets and began giving time, the one thing he had long withheld, to his family. In the mornings, he took his kids to school. In the afternoons, he tended the garden with his wife. At night, they ate dinner together and laughed. Each evening, he lit a small candle by his father's photo and whispered, "I learned how to make a living, but only after you were gone did I learn how to live enough." The house at the end of the street was still the same, but it no longer symbolized material success. Now, it had become the beginning of true happiness, a place of laughter, warmth, and peace. In today's world, everyone wants more money, more fame, more opportunities. But sometimes, running endlessly after more only leads us to lose ourselves. The ancients said, "He who knows when to stop knows what is enough. He who knows enough is truly happy." To know enough does not mean to stop dreaming. It means understanding that the tighter we grasp, the more likely we are to let everything slip away. True happiness does not lie in how much we have, but in how much we can feel content with. Many people spend half their lives to realize that happiness is not found in what we possess, but in knowing where to stop. For chasing wealth, fame, and status is like chasing one's shadow in the setting sun. The more we run, the farther we drift from ourselves. Even more frightening than never knowing when to stop, and that is living without learning, and learning without thinking. The ancients once said, "To study without thinking is blindness. To think without studying is peril." Indeed, those who do not learn are lost in darkness, and those who learn without reflection carry a lamp but never know how to use it. The next story is about a young student in Boston, a boy who once believed that a diploma was enough for success, until one painful fall taught him that knowledge only has meaning when we learn to understand life itself. Evan. The priceless lesson in Boston. A crisp autumn morning. Cold wind sweeps in from the Charles River, brushing through rows of maple trees, turning shades of red and gold. On a quiet street near Harvard University, Evan, a senior economics student, walks with proud steps. In his hand is his newly received honors diploma, and in his heart, a burning belief that the world is waiting for him to shine. From his first day at university, Evan had been the pride of his department. Smart, disciplined, and determined never to lose to anyone. To him, life was a series of numbers, A+ grades, GPA scores, and rising charts of achievement. He believed that if he studied hard enough and scored high enough, every door to success would open. Throughout 4 years of college, Evan rarely left the library. He memorized every formula in finance, knew every definition in macroeconomics, and could calculate compound interest faster than anyone. But he never once stopped to ask himself, what do these things really mean in the world beyond the classroom? That summer, Evan landed an internship at a major financial firm in downtown Boston. On his first day, walking into the glass-walled offices filled with suits and briefcases, he felt as though he had entered the kingdom of success, a place of ambition, elegance, and pressure. This is where I'll prove myself, he thought. But just days later, disaster struck. In a client portfolio report, Evan made a small error in a profit calculation. A single number, off by a fraction, but it led to a wrong investment decision. The company lost tens of thousands of dollars. The office froze. Evan's face turned pale. He tried to explain, blaming the software, the data, even the colleague who sent the file. But deep down, he knew the fault was his. That evening, he was summoned to the director's office. The man, gray-haired, calm, with wise eyes, looked at Evan for a long time before saying quietly, "Evan, knowledge is a tool, but if you don't know how to think, it's just a blade without an edge." Those words struck him like a knife, cutting through his pride. For the first time, Evan had nothing to say. He bowed his head, silent. That night, rain poured over Boston. Evan sat by his dorm window, watching the yellow trail of car lights slide down wet streets. He thought about all his years of studying, the exams, the grades, the praise, and realized, I know a lot, but I understand so little. He knew how to do things, but never asked why. He could solve every equation, but not the problem of his own life. After that failure, Evan decided to start anew. He stopped learning just to memorize and began learning to understand. He joined open discussions, asked why more than how, and read not only about business and finance, but also psychology, philosophy, and the human condition, things no textbook had ever taught him. He learned to observe, to listen, and to accept mistakes as part of growth. He stopped fearing judgment and started hearing others' truths. Slowly, Evan began to see the world differently. A number on a balance sheet wasn't just data, it was someone's sweat, effort, and dream. A financial report wasn't just for grades, it could change the fate of people's lives. From a student who only knew formulas and letters, Evan became a man who put his heart into everything he did. Years later, he became a successful financial analyst. No longer the arrogant student he once was, but a humble leader, one who listened and guided with care. Under his management were dozens of young interns, each one a reflection of who he had been. Whenever a new student joined, Evan told them his story. Not to boast, but to teach a lesson learned the hard way. He often smiled and said, "Knowledge opens the door, but thinking shows you the way. Don't just learn to remember, learn to understand, to become human." Boston remained the same. The autumn leaves still golden, the Charles River still whispering in the wind. But inside Evan, everything had changed. He finally understood. A degree may open the first door, but attitude, humility, and reflection will carry you forward. Intelligence isn't about how much you know, but about where and from whom you choose to learn. For true wisdom doesn't live in books, but in how we rise after every fall. Life teaches us many lessons, some cheap, some costly. And often, the most expensive ones are those that make us grow the most. Evan once thought success was grades, titles, and money. But in the end, he learned, true success is having the humility to learn and the courage to change. So, if one day you stumble, don't be afraid, for that very moment may be the beginning of your most valuable lesson in life. The priceless lesson in Boston. Not just a story of a young student, but a reminder for us all. Sometimes failure doesn't come to end us, but to begin our true growth. Michael, knowing oneself is the true light. New York, a cold, rainy night. The lights of skyscrapers spill across the wet streets, reflecting in long streaks like fading memories. Car horns, the hiss of wind, raindrops tapping against windows. Together, they create the lonely symphony of a city that never sleeps. On the 30th floor of a Manhattan high-rise, Michael, the CEO of a major media corporation, stands before a window, a glass of red wine in his hand. The wine's reflection glows on his expressionless face. Outside, the city blazes with light. Inside, he feels nothing but emptiness. At 38, Michael has everything: wealth, fame, power, admiration, and envy. But the higher he climbs, the more he feels something missing: joy, peace, and himself. Michael is sharp, almost frighteningly so. He can read people with a glance, a tone of voice, a flicker in the eyes. In the corporate world, that made him perfect: logical, decisive, always right. He often told his team, "Understanding others is power. Emotions only make you weak." Under his leadership, everything ran like a machine, precise, efficient, and utterly cold. But in becoming perfect, he lost what made him human. Employees feared him, friends avoided him, and dinners in his luxury apartment echoed only with the clink of silverware on porcelain. He once thought this was the price of success. He didn't realize it was eating him from within. One autumn morning, disaster struck. A major partnership with an international firm, a project Michael had staked his entire reputation on, collapsed overnight. The company lost millions. Investors were furious. The media erupted. In rage, Michael searched for someone to blame. His first target, Lily, his longtime assistant, loyal, diligent, silent. "Do you even understand your job?" he shouted. "Why didn't you report this earlier?" His voice sliced through the air. Lily, eyes red, whispered, "I tried to tell you many times, but you never listened." Michael slammed the desk, spilling wine across his papers. "You think you know better than me? I run this company. I understand people better than anyone." Silence. Then Lily looked up, calm but firm. You understand others? Yes. But do you understand yourself? The words froze the room. They struck him like a blade through the armor of pride. He trembled, then roared, "Are you lecturing me? Get out!" Lily quietly gathered her papers and left. The door closed behind her, and for the first time, the room and Michael's heart felt unbearably cold. That night, he returned to his apartment. The city still glowed, but inside him, there was only darkness. He poured glass after glass of wine until the sting in his chest matched the burn of alcohol. In a haze, he opened his laptop and saw an unread email from Lily sent days before. He clicked. Her words appeared on the screen. "Dear Michael, I know you always want what's best for the company, but sometimes intelligence makes us forget the human heart. I still believe that somewhere inside you, there's a man who knows how to listen." The letters blurred through his tears. And for the first time in years, Michael felt afraid of who he had become. Then the phone rang. A trembling voice said, "Are you Mr. Michael?" "Lily? She's been in an accident." The glass slipped from his hand and shattered on the floor. The sound echoed in the silence, like his heart breaking. He grabbed his keys and ran into the rain. At the hospital, Lily was in surgery. He stood behind the glass, watching doctors rush inside. Her voice replayed in his head. "Do you understand yourself?" Hours later, Lily was moved to recovery, but she was in a deep coma. Michael sat beside her bed, holding her cold hand. Tears, something he thought he'd forgotten, flowed freely. "Lily, I understand now. All this time, I've known everyone, but not myself. I've lived like a blind man under bright lights." The machines beeped steadily. Outside, rain kept falling, like the sky itself was weeping for him. A month later, Lily woke. She recovered, but chose to resign. Before leaving, she visited Michael, no longer the intimidating CEO, but a quiet, humbled man. He looked at her, searching for words, but found none. She smiled gently and said, "Knowing others helps you succeed, but knowing yourself, that's what helps you truly live." Then she left, leaving behind a silence that felt like a sunrise, an empty space where light could finally enter. From that day, Michael changed. He stopped judging, stopped trying to always be right, and stopped measuring people with cold eyes. Each morning, he still stood before the mirror, but instead of adjusting his tie, he looked into his own eyes and asked, "Do I understand myself today?" Slowly, he learned the art of listening, the strength of slowing down, and the courage to face himself without fear. He began to care, not just asking, "How's work?" but "Are you okay?" He learned to smile sincerely, to thank honestly, and to admit when he was wrong. People say time changes us, but for Michael, it was a moment of loss that opened his eyes. A year later, at the company's anniversary celebration, Michael stood on stage, no longer the cold executive of the past. He spoke softly, but every word carried weight. "I once thought success meant knowing what others think, but now I know. Happiness is knowing what you live for. Thank you to those who taught me that lesson, especially the one who helped me see myself again." The hall erupted in applause. In the back row, a woman with long hair, Lily, smiled quietly, then slipped out the door. Outside, New York bustled as always, but the sky above that day was crystal clear. Sometimes it takes a painful shock, a deep loss, for us to finally see. To know others is wisdom, but to know yourself, that is true light. For only when we dare to face the person in the mirror, to see our true selves without fear or pride, can we live in peace, even in a chaotic world. 4 stories, 4 lives. They may seem unconnected, but they are all bound by an invisible thread, the timeless wisdom of the ancients. Simple yet profound truths that still echo in our hurried modern lives. From the poor mother in a New York school hallway, to the Boston student who thought he knew everything, to the man in Manhattan who forgot to know himself, each walked the same path, the path toward inner growth. When the lights of the last story fade, we realize knowledge, wealth, and fame all are merely tools. What keeps us standing amid life's storms is awareness and gratitude. The ancients said, "He who knows when to stop knows what is enough. He who knows enough is truly happy." But that happiness is not the end. It is the beginning of another journey, a journey of learning, reflecting, of letting the heart grow brighter each day, and our words grow kinder with every sunrise. Thus, in the next chapter of this series, we will walk together into another teaching of the ancients, a reminder that a day without learning is a day of useless speech. gentle call that learning is not confined to books, but found in every moment we live, in every person we meet, and in every mistake from which we rise again. For in the end, life is not about who goes the farthest, but who understands themselves the deepest, and who knows that as long as we still learn, we are still growing.